I think the most significant thing to us as people who have homes in the wildland-urban interface is the fact that we've started to spread into the wildlands. We've started to build our homes in areas that were typically natural, that we would typically let a fire burn through and clean it out. But because there's homes there now, we're forced to mitigate those fires and put them out. The reality is that as people continue to build into the interface and those areas become more and more populous, it's more and more difficult for us as fire departments and fire suppression entities to handle the amount of work that we have in those locations. And it's what this means to us is that once our resources become overwhelmed, once we get to the point where we can't do any more, we're going to lose some homes.
So far, only local firefighters are battling this blaze as they wait for more help, which is still far away. This helicopter is still working at sundown tonight, making water drops on the flames. It's one of the few resources allotted to fire bosses today who are battling the Salt Creek fire in Juab and Sanpete counties. That's because there is a critical shortage of fire equipment and personnel.
With all the other fires going on in the nation, I don't know when the crews will get here, but I hope it comes as soon as they can. We need a lot of help.
Chopper 5 found the Camper World campground in Nephi Canyon suffered devastating losses yesterday. And we saw just how close the fire is burning to homes and travel trailers in the Holiday Oaks subdivision.
A lot of people have planned to retire up there, and they're seeing their whole retirement on the verge of going up in smoke.
Property owners wait for any word. Those who built fire breaks around their cabins are hoping that decision will pay off.
When we bought the property, we were concerned about fire, and the insurance premiums up there are so high that we felt the best way to take care of ourselves was to cut back trees and brush.
The wind and dry, hot conditions fueled the fire for a second day as it continues to move south towards the town of Fountain Green and northeast towards the community of Indianola. Local volunteer firefighters from Juab and Sanpete County are what's keeping the fire from getting any closer to cabins and the communities.
We really appreciate the men and women who are up there trying to stop the fire, and we know that they're doing their best, and the cabins we can replace, but we don't want to see anybody get hurt trying to save our properties.
I think the biggest thing for us, we do a lot of education work. We try to get the homeowners to clear around their homes, to make sure that they do have some fire-safe areas, an area for the fire to get from the tops of the trees down to the ground so that it doesn't spread quickly and doesn't attack their homes. The problem that we have is a lot of homeowners have moved to these remote locations because they like the fact that they've got the shrubbery, they've got the trees, they're living in nature. The reality of that for us is that it creates a huge problem for us because it makes the home that's in the interface just part of the fuel. So the biggest thing for us that a homeowner can do is just to prepare their home. They can do a good job of creating that defensible space around their home. They can do some limbing up. And by that we don't mean clear cutting, we don't mean taking all the vegetation out, but just giving their home a better chance of survival.
Defensible space. There are many things that can be done to protect your home from wildfire. Most of these things should be done long before wildfire ever becomes an actual threat to your home. We will now go over several things that you can do as a homeowner to reduce the threat of wildfire around your home. To make things a little easier to understand, we divided the property around your home into 3 areas. These 3 areas are near, mid, and far. Let's begin with the area closest to your home, the near area. The near area consists of your actual home as well as any other structures within direct proximity to your home, such as garages, sheds, or decks. The first thing we will look at is the material used to construct your home. It's very tempting to make our homes blend in with the natural beauty that surrounds it. To do this, we use all kinds of wood products to construct our home. We use such items as logs, cedar shingles, and all sorts of wood siding products. Unfortunately, all these items are extremely flammable and susceptible to quick ignition during a wildfire and should not be used. Even treated material over time can still be extremely flammable. In some cases, these natural materials can be imitated with composite materials that are less flammable. The roof of your home is the most exposed portion of your house and can easily ignite from the flying embers of an oncoming wildfire. For this reason, you should pay special attention to the material used to construct your roof as well as its overall condition. Wooden shakes or shingles are, of course, the most flammable material you could use on your roof and should be avoided. Common asphalt shingles are a good choice when living within an area with the danger of wildfire. Adobe or metal roofs are also excellent choices to reduce your risk of damage or loss due to wildfire. Along with the material used to construct your roof, regular maintenance is also recommended. Each spring you should clean out your rain gutters and keep them free of leaves and pine needles. These highly flammable materials can collect in other areas as well as near your chimney, low areas on your roof, or next to walls or other areas protected from the wind where blowing leaves and pine needles can gather. Even with the protection of a well-constructed roof, you may still be at a risk from an approaching wildfire if you allow leaves and pine needles to gather on your roof. Sparks and embers from a wildfire can travel great distances, and more than likely, if they land on your roof, they will collect in the same areas as this flammable material. By paying attention to the condition of your roof and doing some simple tasks to keep it clean, you are eliminating one of the greatest risks to your home by wildfire. There are a few more things we want to look at when protecting our home from wildfire. Once again, sparks and embers are a significant threat to our homes. One of the areas we need to look at are the eaves or other possible openings that expose the roof or attic area to flying sparks and embers. Ventilation openings should be protected with tightly meshed metal screens. Eaves and overhangs should be closed to prevent increased heat buildup from nearby fire activity. Everything we have just discussed relates directly to your actual home, the structure itself. By following these steps, you can greatly improve the odds of your home surviving an oncoming wildfire. Now, moving on to the next area, the mid-area. The best way to protect your home from wildfire is to keep the fire from ever reaching your home through effective vegetation management. There are 3 things you can do to accomplish effective vegetation management: remove, reduce, and replace. Before we begin to explore these 3 things, let's go over some general landscape spacing measurements. Given a 0 to 10% slope, which is basically flat level ground, spacing should be 10 feet between the nearest branches. The distance between brush and clumps of shrub should be 2.5 times the heights of the vegetation. For a slope of 11 to 20%, you should allow at least 15 feet of spacing between the nearest branches. For brush and clumps of shrubs, spacing should be 3 times the heights of the vegetation. (21 to 40% slope), tree spacing should be 20 feet between the nearest branches. Brush and shrubs, 4 times the heights of the vegetation. These are general guidelines. Vegetation type and weather can create several variables that may increase or decrease the effectiveness of these measurements.